What they found in Chuck Norris' Hawaii mansion will leave you speechless. When news broke on March 20, 2026, that Chuck Norris had passed away at 86 following a sudden medical emergency at his Kauai property, the world stopped for a moment. Not because people thought it was possible. In fact, the internet had spent 2 decades joking that death itself was too afraid to knock on Chuck Norris's door. But behind the legend, behind the memes, behind the roundhouse kicks and the one-liners, there was a real life. A private one. And when family members began speaking after his passing, details emerged that nobody saw coming. A hidden daughter. A ranch built for silence. A fortune stretching across properties, lawsuits, and ranches. And a man who, it turns out, said "I love you" every single day. Stay with me, because this story only gets more extraordinary the deeper you go. Paradise Island Ranch, a private world on Kauai's North Shore. Long before the world said goodbye to Chuck Norris, he had already built himself a quiet escape on the island of Kauai, specifically in the town of Kilauea on the North Shore. The property, known as Paradise Island Ranch, was not the kind of estate that screamed Hollywood. It was something else entirely. Something intentional. The ranch had previously belonged to Donovan and Clarissa Howard, who originally purchased the land for around $6.5 million. Chuck and his wife Gina later acquired the property together, and from that point forward, it became more than real estate. It became a retreat. A reset. A place where the noise of decades of fame could finally be turned down. Sitting roughly 10 minutes from the nearest beach, the estate spans about 4,500 square feet, with 3 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms. But the numbers barely tell the story. What made the ranch remarkable was everything surrounding it: the open green landscapes, the island skies, and a stillness that people who have visited Kilauea describe as almost surreal. Neighbors in the area recalled Chuck Norris as remarkably grounded for someone of his stature, describing him as simply so chill, someone who just wanted to talk and hang out rather than perform for anyone. Kauai now. That detail says everything, does it not? A man the world associated with intensity and toughness, quietly living on an island, wanting nothing more than conversation and calm. The ranch gave him space to train, to think, and to be present with family without cameras or expectations. And it was here, on March 10, 2026, that he celebrated his 86th birthday by sparring with a trainer on the ranch grounds, posting a video with the caption "I don't age. I level up." 9 days later, everything changed. The secret that shocked everyone: his hidden daughter. Now here is where the story takes a turn that no one expected, and honestly, it is the kind of detail that makes you pause and reconsider everything you thought you understood about a person's life. Back in 1991, a letter arrived at the Norris home. Not a fan letter. Not a legal notice. A letter from a woman named Dina, who wrote to say something simple and earth-shattering at the same time: she believed she was his daughter. Dina had been born in 1964, during a period when Norris was married to his first wife Diane Holchek. There had been an affair, quiet and buried, and a child came from it who grew up entirely outside of Norris's world. For 26 years, he had no idea. Neither did she, not fully. At 16, Dina overheard a conversation between her mother and someone else, and just like that, the pieces clicked into place. Her biological father was Chuck Norris. But her mother urged her to stay silent. Norris was married. Reaching out could cause pain for too many people. And so Dina waited. Not for a year. Not for 2. For 10 full years, she carried that knowledge alone. Then the newspapers reported that Norris's marriage had ended. The barrier was gone. With the support of her husband Damien, Dina finally wrote the letter. Norris later described the moment in his memoir, saying he was going through ordinary mail at home when that one envelope changed everything. He shared the letter with his mother, who arranged a meeting with Dina before anyone else. After that meeting, the message came back simple and clear: "Come over now." What happened next is one of the most quietly powerful moments in the entire story. Norris walked into the room, saw Dina standing there, and described feeling as if the breath had left his body. There was no DNA test. No paperwork. Just an immediate, bone-deep recognition. In his own words, there was simply no doubt. They hugged. Both cried. And a bond that had been delayed by 26 years formed in minutes. Shortly after their reunion, Norris began filming Walker, Texas Ranger in Dallas, which happened to be where Dina and her family had recently moved. Coincidence or something more, Norris himself saw it as a kind of quiet guidance. The relationship grew steadily from there, and years later, Dina appeared in a family vacation photo Norris posted publicly from Kauai, together with her husband Damien and their 3 children. A simple image, but behind it sat one of the most remarkable stories of rediscovery in Hollywood history. The fortune and properties he left behind. Chuck Norris built a fortune estimated at around $70 million, but what makes that number interesting is not the size. It is the method. Nothing came from a single source. Everything was layered, diversified, and connected to the same core values he had lived by since he was a teenager in a judo class in South Korea. Acting, obviously, formed the foundation. Walker, Texas Ranger alone generated over $690 million in total revenue across its run. But Norris believed he was owed a significant portion that never arrived. In 2018, he filed a lawsuit against CBS, claiming more than $30 million in withheld profits tied to his contracted 23% profit share. The case wound through courts for years before reaching a private settlement in July 2023, the details of which were never made public. Beyond television, the real estate portfolio told a story of its own. In Dallas, Norris co-owned a Mediterranean ranch-style estate in the Northwood Hills area with his brother Aaron, featuring 4 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, a private theater, a weight room, and its own lake. A separate building on the same grounds served as a production studio for Walker and other projects, which meant that for years, work and home existed in the same physical space. Then there was Lone Wolf Ranch near Navasota, Texas, stretching across roughly 1,000 acres. That property became the home base for 2 separate business ventures, Seaforce, a bottled water company drawing from artesian wells on the land, and later a premium dog food line focused on strength and endurance. Both reflected the same brand identity Norris had built over decades: discipline, resilience, and physical integrity. Endorsement deals with companies including T-Mobile, World of Warcraft, Toyota, and United Healthcare added further income, while several published books and the 2005 founding of the World Combat League, a team-based martial arts competition, added yet more layers to an already expansive legacy. And through it all, the Hawaii property on Kauai remained the personal anchor, the place where business stopped and life simply continued. His final days and the tributes that revealed the real Chuck Norris. Just 9 days separated that birthday training video from the moment his family gathered around him for the last time. On March 18, 2026, Norris had been active on the island, training and sharing lighthearted jokes during a phone call with a close friend. Reports indicated he was in good spirits before being brought to a hospital in Kauai, and his family later confirmed he passed away the morning of March 19, surrounded by loved ones and, in their words, at peace. Hollywood life. The family chose not to disclose the cause of death, but said simply that he was surrounded by his family and was at peace. That restraint felt consistent with how he had lived. Privately. On his own terms. Yahoo! Tributes flooded in from across the world. Sylvester Stallone called him all-American in every way. Jean-Claude Van Damme said he would never be forgotten. Texas Governor Greg Abbott wrote that Norris had electrified generations. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu remembered him as a close personal friend. Even author Stephen King paid tribute by sharing a classic Chuck Norris joke online, a fitting nod to a cultural phenomenon that had made him immortal in meme form long before his actual passing. Al Jazeera memory tree. But the tributes that carried the most weight came from his children. His son Dakota posted photographs and wrote that Norris had been the greatest father God could have given him, highlighting his faith, kindness, and consistency. His daughter Dani Lee described him as a protector, the person who represented safety for every one of her 24 years. She wrote that behind the warrior exterior existed a heart overflowing with love, and that not a single day passed without hearing the words "I love you." Read that again. Not a single day. In a life defined publicly by strength, speed, and a persona that the internet literally declared invincible, the detail that lands hardest is that one. A father who showed up every day with those 3 words. A man who built his children a sense of safety so solid that it took decades of distance and loss to even begin to measure it. The official family statement described him as a devoted husband, a loving father and grandfather, an incredible brother, and the heart of our family. His children, including Eric, Mike, and Dina, the daughter who found him through a single letter 35 years ago, all confirmed the same thing: he lived with faith, purpose, and an unwavering commitment to the people he loved. No mention of the films. No mention of the fortune. Just love, presence, and the quiet consistency of a man who never needed a camera to do the most important things right. And maybe that is the detail that changes everything. Not the ranch, not the hidden daughter, not the lawsuit or the legacy. Maybe it is just this: a man the world thought it knew, who spent his whole private life making sure the people closest to him never doubted for a single day that they were loved. That is the thing they found in Chuck Norris's Hawaii mansion. Not a secret. A life, fully and quietly lived.